All right, man. We're gonna do the Friday free game. I am in the office of the Real Don Shop. It is 48 degrees up here, so I just cut the heater on. So, um, we had a Thursday free game on IG. If you follow me on IG, I appreciate it. We're gonna do the Friday free game on the YouTube. So this one here is for the YouTube. But we end up having a really, really good long live. It ended up being like 2.5 hours of just people and their experiences, which is, I mean, it's really good for people trying to, I guess, get into the car culture or get their project car going, or just understanding the racing aspect of it. One of the first things I started pushing when it was just me on the live at first was, I guess you really got to be honest and logical with yourself. A lot of people have a budget. It's nothing wrong with a budget. Life is more important than these project cars. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like that, but you have to do life. Most people have bills, stuff they have to pay for, food, utilities, possibly rent, mortgage, could have kids. All that comes before the project car. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not I guess a hard budget, but it might be a weekly budget or a monthly budget that you have to stick to. So make sure you put that in place so you're not struggling to do life because of a project car. That's something else that will make a bill really, really stressful. Is trying to do too much project car, and it starts interfering with doing life. The second thing I push, I see a lot of people, it starts to get cold, like, oh, okay, it's time to do winter projects, it's time to do winter projects. Everybody's winter projects are not the same. Because I've been outside, that's the only reason I'm saying it. Me being inside a shop, I can enjoy a winter project and cut the heat on. Everybody does not have a shop. That's why I push the shop free games, because I know what it's like to be outside working in the snow. I've been there. You get what I'm saying? I know what it's like at rainy parts of the year, fighting the rain. You can't do anything, because it's raining outside. You can't get inside. You're stuck, So I push that a lot, and getting people to understand bigger is not always better. You have one project car. There's no reason you can't do what you need to do in a one car garage. So don't get caught up on you need a 2, 3, 4 car garage. Build a one car garage. Whatever you're working on, have it in the garage so you can heat and cool it. And if you get another car down the road, well, buy a car cover. You can have it covered up outside. You don't have to work on that. So you can just put a car cover on it. It doesn't have to be in the weather. So, yeah, I hope people really take that in and understand like how it can make you really, really efficient in what you're doing. Just having somewhere to work, not just out of the weather, but also having proper lighting and not having to chase a flashlight or a headlamp while you're trying to work. Makes a huge difference. Having concrete to work on makes a huge difference in a lot of different jobs that you get into. I pull motors out on trees. I pull motors out, in the yard on grass with cherry pickers. I've done all that. I didn't start off with overhead lifts. From those experiences, it made me sit down the racing stuff for, I don't know, possibly 2, 3 years, something like that. And then I came out with a super, super street build. Let's see, what did I do? Maybe it was 2 years. I was on a four-wheeler for like a year or two. I was going to car shows on a four-wheeler because that's what I had to do. I sold a bunch of stuff, got into a four-wheeler, and I enjoyed the four-wheeler like crazy. It was a lot cheaper than a race car. It did not break like a race car. So I was able to enjoy that, stack my money up, build my shop, what I call the Real Donk Shop now. And it's been one of the best investments I ever made in my life. It has been. So the next thing we talked about is, and I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just pointing out where some stuff can be really, really misleading. So You know, shout out to Holder, shout out to Richard Holder. I just see where some of his stuff can be misleading, not on the horsepower numbers, but on the actual price. None of this stuff is cheap. It's not. None of it's cheap at all. There's a lot of unforeseen costs. You know, when you start looking at a turbo setup, if you're not the fab person, that's a lot of money that it's gonna cost you. It's just how much, I don't know. It depends on how you want it set up. You know, it really does. Some people seen stuff on YouTube and on the internet and IG and, oh, I want it like this. Well, do you know how much that costs? You know, do you know how much that's gonna cost you to get that done? And a lot of this stuff, while you're working on it, you know, this car is gonna be down. You know, this is not. A lot of people are telling me they're thinking they want to go turbo. Well, that's great, but a turbo setup is not a nitrous setup. This is not something that you slap together in a couple of hours on a weekend with your buddies. Just it does not work like that. You know, you can get a decent nitrous controller for $200. You can't get a decent boost controller for $200. You just can't. Well, I run wastegate springs. Okay, that's cool. Well, how much of the wastegate's gonna cost you? You know, who's gonna fab that up? EFI, now you need an intercooler. How much is the intercooler gonna cost you? So now where are you gonna mount this intercooler? You know, who's gonna mount that for you? A lot of unforeseen costs. We were really big on talking about fuel, and people started saying they want to go turbo, and now they want to go E85. Well, now you need 30% more fuel. You need 30% more fuel line. You need 30% more fuel filter. That's just what it is. You get with the program. I made a mistake, and I told them I think I spent $3,500 on a fuel pump. I spent $3,500 on replacing my fuel setup. You know, just in fuel, not going faster. Pump, line, filter. That's what I end up getting tied up in. Everybody's not trying to make the power that I'm trying to make. I understand that. On the cheap side, I had a 800 horsepower EFI setup. 800 horsepower. And I had probably, if I had to take a wild guess, I'm not going to say it's completely wild because I looked at how much the pump cost. Maybe $650. I think the pump might have been like $650, $700, you know, once you put tax on that. And I had machine fuel lines put together for E85. Some aircraft clamp fuel injection lines put together for that. Really nice stuff. Nicer than the AN stuff. And I don't know, I probably had $600 tied up in line. So, you know, we're still talking, you could spend an easy $2,200 in a fuel setup. You know, trying to make 800 horsepower on E85 with a turbo setup. I think I got 250 into regulators because you need a really good size regulator, and it has to be a boost reference. You know, so that's I think that's the stuff that people are not looking at. They're assuming I can just get my buddy, you know, who welds. He can just weld this up for me real quick, and I'll throw him a couple of dollars, and then everything else gonna be sweet and cheap. No, it's gonna cost you more and more and more and more and more. You know, even if you think you're gonna go blow through, you know, we talked about that. A good smaller size blow through could cost you upwards of $1,000. You know, so you think 2,000 on fuel, 3,000, not 3,000 once you put 1,000 in on a blow through setup. You really need to get special rails with that blow through. I'm not sure that might cost you extra 200. So, you know, you're 3,200 and just trying to get fuel on a carburetor setup. You know, then the turbo setup could easily cost, once you're all said and done, even if you go super cheap stuff, you're talking at least $1,000. So, you know, 4,300ish is what I'm seeing. And I actually got to send people these numbers because some people was asking, and it's just like, If you never done it, the numbers don't sound real, because you have people on the internet telling you that, oh, you can make this much power for $1,000. Well, where are you getting the fuel? What fuel setup are you using? That's gonna cost you. The turbo. They showing the turbo setup costs $1,000. They're not showing you that the Holley EFI that they're using costs $2,000. They're not telling you that. And then the cam, springs, the intake by itself on a fuel injection setup mess around cost you $1,000. So it's like it's a lot of wash. It's a lot of wash on the internet. It just is. So that's my ballpark on the carb setup is $4,300 for a turbo. That's what I'm seeing. Low end. That's not including. I'm not gonna say that's everything. If you're not willing to spend $4,300, don't start. That's what I'm assuring you. Don't start. Could you go source some stuff used and save some money? I'm sure you could, but as you know, it's risking that. So, you just got to keep that in mind. On the fuel injection setup, I would say the fuel will probably end up costing you a little bit more, because you're gonna need more fuel for the fuel injection setup. Like I said, we're just gonna talk LS stuff. A good intake could cost you $1,000 easy. $800 easy. So we're just gonna say $1,000, because like when you start dealing with stuff and it's $700-800, like, I'm not exaggerating when I'm rounding up. It's literally, let's say it's $800 for a good intake. You put tax on that, that's $880. You might as well say that's $900. We're $10 shy on $900. It's like, now I got to get it shipped. Okay, and then sometimes they come with gaskets, sometimes they don't. Then you have to turn around and get a throttle body for it. The throttle body might mess around. If you got a drive-by-wire, throttle body might mess around and cost you $500. You get what I'm saying? And that's just to get an intake and a throttle body. It's no EFI. EFI is going to cost you $2,000 going through Holley. Easy. You get what I'm saying? So, that'll easily take this 4,300 number, it'll take it smooth into $6,000. Easy. Such and such said they're gonna. Oh, I don't care what they said. I'm telling you the numbers that I see. I'm telling you the numbers that they see. They math is not math. They not watching the books close enough, understanding what they spending. So if somebody has a highly controlled turbo setup and they tell you they spent less than $6,000 on it, I need to see what they use. I don't like, even if. We talking about prices if you're doing all this stuff yourself. If you use your manifolds, you flip them, you got pipe laying around, well, it's just like, that's the stuff you might have laying around, but for free, manifolds, some old pipe you just throw together, but you're not going to have wastegate sitting around. You're not going to have blow-off valves sitting around, or you already paid for them. Blow-through carb, like, you already paid for this stuff. Go with blow-through carb, you still got to buy a hat. A hat could cost you $500. Just for the hat. It's still labor tied up in that. You still have to tap the hat. So, I just don't want people to be misled when they're on eBay and they're looking at, I guess, $1,000 turbo setups and $500 turbo setups, and they think because you buy this turbo setup that this is it. No. You're just getting started on the fab work of it. We talked about supercharger, procharger stuff might be a lot more feasible. It gives you a way to work up. You could go buy really good headers and exhausts, run them to the back, and then when you get ready, come back and do a supercharger or or procharger setup. So and you might have to drill the crankshaft for a pin. Depending on how much boost you're trying to run, what kind of supercharger you're using. So that's also something to keep in mind. So I don't think I had to pin mine for the boost and the supercharger that I have, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So that's in the mix for Yana, the motor and supercharger setup that's going to be going into the new gen Camaro. But yes, that's the Friday free game for the YouTube, man. So Don't get tied up in the yo-yo on YouTube and also on the internet. It can be very, very misleading on prices. I encourage everybody to do their own research and really understand how much this stuff costs. And just like even me right now looking at this number, it's like, dude, it can't cost that much. But I'm like thinking about it like, you spent it. It costs that much. It's no way around it. And I'm doing all the work myself. I'm not paying anybody to do it. And it's like, fuck, that's what it costs, dude. So if you're not ready to spend $4,000, I suggest you not get into a turbo setup. Don't get into any power adder setup besides nitrous, because I'm not sure you can't get into a supercharger that cheap. You can't buy a supercharger for $4,000. You can't. You might get something used, but you're not gonna get it up and going for $4,000. It's just not. It's not. I assumed I got a good deal on a supercharger, and looking at it, it wasn't a bad deal. But I still had to go buy injectors for it. I still gotta get a throttle body for it. So it's a lot of unforeseen money that's going to have to go into this bill. I wanted to get it ported. That's a want, but it's certain stuff that has to happen that you might not see, but it has to happen. So that's the free game for today, man. Know what you get into, do your own due diligence, and I guess know a decent ballpark price of what you'll spend to get your project going. Like I said, the goal of these free games is to try to encourage people to go in the right direction the first time, because it costs a lot of money. When you see people, oh, I changed my mind, it's brand new stuff, I only tested it, now I got to try to sell it. You're taking losses on that stuff. You're not getting your money back. So it's really important to go with the setup that you want to go with the first time around, and you can save time and money. The money you can make back, time you can't. And anytime it might be brand new stuff, but once you done bought it, it's you. So now you got to take a loss on that, trying to recoup to go a different direction. So I try to encourage people to, have your mind made up exactly what you want to do, and be super, super sure about that before you start out on a project. All right, y'all have a good day.